Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. So today I'm going to go out and put a bit of food in some of those hives that looked a little bit weak before. So one thing that you'll notice a little bit different for those of you in different parts of the world and warmer climates in Maine, instead of putting your gear in a wheelbarrow or a wagon, in Maine we put it in a sled. This is one of the hives I determined was a bit light the other day, so it's going to need feeding at some time this winter. Right now I'm going to give them some, whether they need it or not, for the sake of the video. A couple of inches of insulation on the top. Now have the food ready to go. The sugar bricks we made earlier, all being well, we just slip it straight in. Now this hive has a candy board on and the bees are working on it. Let's have a quick look at that. Bees are eating the candy board, small cluster, bulk of it's probably in the middle underneath that sugar, but we don't need to do any more. We've got a good 8 to 10 pounds of candy in place, so we'll leave this hive alone. Should have marked that I had a candy board there, save opening it up. It's not too bad a day to open the hives up today if you need to. It's about high 30s, so as long as we're quick. Normally you don't go stopping moving cameras and that sort of thing. If I saw it had plenty of food, I should close it right away. So the bees are just working their way into the candy there. I can see I've got a good deal of honey. I'm going to put this sugar brick here and this one here. This hive has got plenty of resources, and I think we're going to go. The cluster's just here. Just eating the winter patties I'd put there in the winter time. There's still plenty of honey in the frames below. Have everything ready so we don't have to open it for longer than necessary. And there's the cluster, nice sized cluster there, eating up the food nicely. Put a bit of extra in there just to make sure it can go a nice long time, and close it up. They look in great shape. So the position of the cluster can vary quite a bit. In this hive, the cluster is still low. In this hive, the cluster is higher. But in any case, the cluster is in touch with, physical contact with plenty of food in the hive. these hives certainly did not need that extra food adding, and by lifting it I could tell they still had plenty of weight, so they still a good 60 pounds of weight in there, so they would not be in any danger of running out of food till probably March. But for the sake of the video, I'm opening up, putting that food in, and I probably won't have to touch these for the rest of the winter, but we'll see. It's been a very mild winter, but just right in my view, because it's been cold enough that the bees aren't flying, and it's not been bitterly cold, at least not yet. When it's warm enough for the bees to fly, they burn up a lot more honey. So we have to be very careful about the supply of food running down. When it's really cold, they'll burn up a lot more honey as well. So, but it's been right in between. It's sort of hitting round about the 30 to 35 degree mark. A few bees have flown around each day, but the clusters stayed intact. And my personal opinion is that would use just about the minimum amount of honey in the winter. So right now they're not getting through the honey very quickly. Now the thing that'll catch out a lot of people this year is because of the drought we had this year, a lot of bee hives did not store as much honey as people may have thought. They may have had some at the top but didn't get the brood chambers full. Those hives will burn through their honey pretty quickly, and so you can only tell whether you've got enough honey in there by getting a feel of that weight. And I know by the weight of these hives they've got plenty in there, and having had a peek in there, I know that the bees are well positioned to take advantage of it too. It's a shame taking the snow off the hive, because the snow actually acts like an insulator, protect it from the wind and that sort of thing. But as I said, the conditions haven't been bad this winter at all. We are actually forecast to get some heavy rain shortly, so that's actually less good than snow, because dampness kills as many bees as cold does, I'd say, in the winter time. Food ready. Look at that. What a beautiful cluster. Plenty of patties in there. There's plenty of food. I'm just going to put a tiny bit more in here, some of these broken blocks. But the bees are in perfect condition there. Nice sized cluster. Nice sized cluster. Plenty of food. I know that I may have had some concern going into the winter with the weight of this hive. That's why there's 4 of those winter patties in. But they're only just getting started on those. And the winter patties are eaten at the same time that the honey is. It just depends where the cluster is. If the cluster is in contact with the sugar, or the patties, or the honey, they'll eat any and all of those. And so basically what those were in there for is just to make sure that the honey lasted longer than it would otherwise do. Give it an insurance policy. So when I looked down the hives before, these were some of the more marginal hives. And as we can see right now, I have absolutely no concerns of them running out of food, at least for the time being. This hive's only marginally lighter than the ones before. This time the cluster is in the corner. Now the cluster being in the corner, that's not a great thing. So I want to make sure that there's plenty of food that gives them a bridge from that corner to the other parts of the hive. Because the bees, if they're in a corner, that's the only thing, whereas you've got a hive full of honey, it can run out of food resources because, quite simply, the cluster starts in the middle and it's not a huge cluster, so the cluster has to move around over the honey to eat it. In this case, they've gone into a corner. Now, if they go into a corner, they can't go that way now, they can't go that way. The only way left is going this way, but if it gets really cold, they'll eat up the food there, and then they literally make a gap. Maybe it's only an inch across, a gap where the honey has already been eaten, and they can starve to death with 40 pounds of honey on this side of the hive. So one of the advantages of feeding bees with candy and winter patties is having a bridge of food across the hive so that they're never not in contact with food, and that cluster can gradually make its way over to the other side of the hive where there's plenty of food. That was quite useful. I'm glad I saw that. I clearly do not need to go into my other hives because these were probably the lightest of those single-story hives, so I've got no concern of the bees running out of food, at least for the next month or so. So I'll be looking again later. I'll go around to some other yards, but I know that this was the yard that had my lightest hives in it, because I've got a lot of single-story hives in here, so I'm quite comfortable with that. I'll have one more. We'll look into some nukes. If you recall, this is the nukes I did the video on, where I wrapped and showed two nukes over a two-story, over a double nuke, of a two-story hive there. These hives are benefiting from heat coming from the two-story hive below, going through a double screen bottom board, so the heat is now moving into these nukes here. Let's have a look and see how they look. This particular part, they're sharing one insulation board, and this part, there's individual insulation boards. Just making sure I've got everything I need if I need anything from it, and let's have a look. Look at that. Isn't that magnificent? I'll put another brick in here. Again, I can see plenty of honey. All the frames are still covered in honey, but I'm just going to put this brick across here. And I'm going to close it back up again. What a fantastic cluster we've got there, and still plenty of food. Oh, that makes you feel good. I love seeing that. I shouldn't be opening it, but wow, they look great. May as well have a look at the other side too. A smaller cluster, considerably smaller. They're up at this end of the hive. I can see plenty of honey in here for them. Plenty of candy. But I'm still going to put another brick of candy right across them, so there's no danger of them running out of food. Well, I'm very happy with what I've seen here. Can't remember which way the lids went, but it doesn't really matter. So, as I said, the hives are in very good shape. I can see life in front of just about every hive in the yard so far, but it's only the middle of January. The hives that I had a little bit of concern of levels of food, I've checked, and they've got a long way to go before they run out. So I'm pretty pleased with what we're seeing here so far. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. That'll be great. Press that subscribe button down below. Like the like the video, and do tell your friends about it. Share it and let other people know about it. I hope that I can help a lot of people, particularly in the north, who've had relatively little experience with their bees. I hope this will be a help. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. Thanks very much. See you next time.